our international conversations. And today we're putting a focus on the growing concern that Russia is engaging in a grain war with grain stuck in Ukraine in the midst of rising food and energy crisis. Obviously, we need to speak to we know that the German foreign minister has been speaking on this and says that up to 50 million people, particularly in Africa and Middle East, will obviously face hunger in the coming months unless ways are found to release Ukrainian grain because of what's happening. Now let's speak to Thomas Sparrow. He's with our partners, the DW, joining us now to help us understand what's happening. So Thomas, first of all, how serious is this problem highlighted by the German foreign minister?
It is certainly a very serious problem, and that was something that German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock clearly stressed when she met her G7 counterparts here in Germany. She's describing it as a grain war that is being used deliberately by Russia against Ukraine, so no collateral damage or anything similar, but something that is being used deliberately by Russia, and that is creating many problems not only for Ukraine but internationally as well. German officials are saying that millions of people in poor countries, in particular in regions like the Middle East or Africa, will have severe problems when it comes to food security if this particular situation is not resolved soon. In particular, we're speaking about Ukrainian grains which are not being able to leave Ukraine because of current tensions there. So that's also why the G7 members, but internationally other countries as well, are trying to find alternative solutions to make sure that this problem can be resolved.
Well, so let's talk about Germany itself and other countries. What are they doing against this?
In particular, it's about trying to ensure that Ukraine can first and foremost continue to produce the grains. It's important to stress that Ukraine is one of the most important exporters of grains worldwide, and as such, this is something that has important effects worldwide. So that's one of the key discussions that were being led here in Germany by Mrs. Baerbock to try and ensure that Ukraine can continue to produce. But it's also about trying to find other ways for Ukraine to export those grains, in particular if their own ports are being blocked by Russia. So that's why different countries are talking now about so-called agricultural solidarity lanes to try and find different ways for Ukraine to export their grains. And one concrete example is being now carried out by Germany's railway, Deutsche Bahn. They are going to be sending special trains to Ukraine to try and transport back to Europe some of those grains that are now stuck in Ukraine. This is only one concrete example. There are further examples of what the G7 and other countries are doing, but in particular, it's about ensuring that Ukraine can produce and can obviously export its grains, and that as such, those countries that are most affected by that in places like Africa or the Middle East can then have food security in the short term, but also in the medium to long term as well.
And how is this affecting European consumers as well?
If you look at imports here in Germany of grains, you will notice that Russian grains and Ukrainian grains play a relatively small role here in Germany. Countries that are closer to Germany, like Poland or the Czech Republic, play a larger role there. So from that perspective, this is not something that would affect Germany very much specifically. But we have to understand this is something that goes well beyond just what countries import where. This is something that was, by the way, clear from Mrs. Baerbock's message, that affects the whole world, that it's an international problem, and as such Germany is obviously particularly affected, and consumers in Germany and in Europe are also affected by higher prices when it comes to some of those grains, but also energy prices if you look at the issue more broadly, and there is growing concern in Europe about what exactly that means. As such, the German government is bringing that forward, some of those packages to try and help consumers that are particularly affected by this increase in prices.
Thomas Sparrow, thank you.